There was a time when Manchester City were not the club everyone wanted to beat. They weren't the club buying the world's best players. They weren't lifting trophy after trophy. And they certainly weren't being discussed alongside Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, or Manchester United. In fact, in 1998, City had fallen all the way into English football's third tier. Today, the same club has won the Premier League, conquered Europe, built a global football network, and developed into one of the most powerful organizations in the sport. So how did a club that once seemed trapped in a cycle of failure become a football superpower? The answer isn't simply money. It's what Manchester City did with it. For decades, City's story was one of extraordinary highs followed by painful crashes. The club had tasted greatness before. In the 1960s, under Joe Mercer and Malcolm Allison, City won the league, the FA Cup, the League Cup, and the European Cup Winners' Cup. But the success didn't last forever. The club entered periods of decline, instability, and relegation. Maine Road, City's famous home from 1923 to 2003, became a symbol of that complicated history. It witnessed legendary victories, enormous crowds, heartbreak, and the strange unpredictability that City supporters came to know as typical City. And then came the lowest point. In 1998, Manchester City were relegated to the third tier for the first time in their history. For a club with such a proud past, it was almost unthinkable. But something remarkable happened. The supporters stayed. City escaped the third tier through the playoffs, returned to the second tier, and in 2002 won promotion back to the Premier League as Division 1 champions. Just 1 year later, they said goodbye to Maine Road and moved into the City of Manchester Stadium. The club was climbing again, but nobody could have predicted what came next. In September 2008, everything changed. The Abu Dhabi United Group took control of Manchester City, with Sheikh Mansour becoming the club's new owner and Khaldoon Al-Mubarak taking the chairman's role. And almost immediately, the football world understood that this wasn't business as usual. Robinho arrived from Real Madrid on the same day the takeover was announced. It was a statement, but the real story was happening behind the headlines. Sheikh Mansour's original vision was bigger than assembling an expensive squad. In his message to supporters, he spoke about building the right people and structures around the club and creating plans for the future. That distinction became incredibly important because Manchester City didn't just spend, they built. The club invested heavily in recruitment, coaching, sports science, technology, youth development, facilities, and executive leadership. Then came one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, the Manchester City Football Academy. Opened in 2014 after years of research, development, and construction, the complex created an interconnected environment for Manchester City's men's and women's teams, academy players, staff, and football operations. The philosophy was simple but powerful. Don't just buy tomorrow's superstar, build the environment that creates tomorrow's superstar. City's academy became a major part of that strategy. The club combined coaching and scouting with data, technology, physical development, education, and long-term player pathways. The results eventually became visible far beyond Manchester, with academy graduates reaching professional football across Europe and England. But there was still another missing ingredient, a football philosophy. And in 2016, City brought in a manager who would redefine the club, Pep Guardiola. Guardiola didn't simply arrive to win matches, he brought an entire football language with him. Possession became a weapon, positioning became a science. Every movement had a purpose. Players were expected to understand space, timing, pressure, and decision-making at an extraordinary level. And gradually, Manchester City stopped looking like a rich club trying to win. They started looking like a system designed to win. The trophies followed, but perhaps more important than any individual trophy was consistency. City developed an identity that could survive changes in players. The club could sell one superstar and develop another. A young academy player could emerge. A new signing could enter the system and immediately understand his role. That's when the transformation became something bigger than a football team.
It became an organization. In 2013, City Football Group was established, taking the idea of Manchester City as a global football project to another level. Instead of thinking about one club in one city, the organization began developing a network of clubs, academies, partnerships, scouting structures, commercial opportunities, and football expertise across different markets. And that strategy changed the economics of the project. Manchester City wasn't only trying to win matches in England, it was building a worldwide football ecosystem. The group now operates across multiple continents, with clubs and partnerships spanning Europe, the Americas, Asia, and Australia. Its academies use shared ideas about talent identification, coaching, technology, performance, and player development. Behind the scenes, executives such as Haldon Al-Mubarak, Ferran Soriano, and Chiki Begristan became part of the broader structure that connected football operations with commercial and strategic thinking. And the financial transformation became enormous. Deloitte reported that Manchester City generated €838 million in revenue in the 2023-24 season, placing them second in its global football money league. That is a remarkable distance from the club that once found itself in the third tier. But City's rise has never been free from controversy. The club has faced sustained criticism and scrutiny over its financial practices. In 2023, the Premier League referred numerous alleged rule breaches involving Manchester City to an independent commission, including allegations concerning financial information and sponsorship-related matters. City has consistently denied wrongdoing and contested the allegations. The debate remains one of the most complicated chapters in modern football, and it is important to separate allegations from established findings. Yet, regardless of where someone stands on that debate, one fact is difficult to ignore. Manchester City changed. They went from a club associated with unpredictability to one associated with planning, from reacting to problems to building systems designed years ahead, from a team in Manchester to a global football organization. And perhaps that's the real secret behind the transformation. Manchester City didn't simply buy better footballers. They invested in the infrastructure around those footballers. They invested in coaches, analysts, scouts, academies, technology, executives, stadium development, commercial partnerships, global networks, and the football philosophy that could keep evolving.
The trophies were the visible part. The system underneath was the real story. Because when Manchester City finally lifted the Champions League trophy in 2023, completing the club's long-awaited European breakthrough, it wasn't just the ending of a football match. It was the culmination of a transformation that had been decades in the making. A club that once fell into the third tier had become a global force. And whether you admire Manchester City, question their methods, or simply marvel at what they have built, their rise has permanently changed the idea of what a modern football club can become. Because Manchester City didn't just build a winning team, they built a football empire.